It's DSP's Game of the Year Awards, the top 10 best games of 2014. Honorable mention, Far Cry 4. Now this one I really did enjoy, but at the same time, the game kind of wore out its welcome the more that I played it, and ultimately I had a hard time deciding whether or not I should include it in my actual top 10 or not, because of a deciding factor, and that factor was that the game is almost identical gameplay-wise to its previous iteration, Far Cry 3. A huge open-world environment, a wide variety of weapons, hunting of animals and skinning them to craft items for your inventory, liberating radio towers that allow you to basically have viewpoints and unlock side missions, rescue side missions, and you know, it's just kind of exactly the same as Far Cry 3 gameplay-wise. But when it came to the story, unfortunately, Far Cry 4 paled in comparison to its predecessor. You had a villain that really was absent for most of the story, side characters and supporting quests that really just didn't make much sense and were poorly developed almost for the sake of saying that there were more characters and content in the game than actually having a use for being there. A lot of people told me that Far Cry 4 was one of their favorite games of the year, if not their favorite first-person shooter of the year, and I'm not here to fault you if that is your decision. I just didn't feel as great about the game, especially when I got about halfway through and I said, man, the game just feels like the same repetitive stuff over and over. And unlike Far Cry 3, you didn't have a really interesting villain or great plot line to rip you and want you to keep playing. For me, once I got about halfway through, I just wanted it to be over. So it's a good game. It's definitely worth mentioning. There's tons of content. We're talking over 20 plus hours if you do everything. But at the same time, I didn't feel it was as good as the last one, and I definitely didn't feel that it was going to be a Game of the Year contender, but it's still worth mentioning, so check it out if you haven't. Now back to the mainstream countdown with number 6, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Most recently, our outings in the Lord of the Rings universe have kind of been blasé. You had LEGO Lord of the Rings, and before that there was a cooperative kind of hack-and-slash action game. But really we were looking for something different and would actually give people an incentive to return to the world of Middle-earth that maybe weren't huge fans of the lore of the Lord of the Rings. And Shadow of Mordor was exactly that. Jumping into the feet of a wraith, basically someone who had died but was not allowed to die, was possessed by some kind of a supernatural being, and because of that had really unique powers. It kind of was a cool take on the universe, and the fact that for the first time in a long time it wasn't just the main plot line of the regular Lord of the Rings was also refreshing. Being able to jump into an open world where you can attack and kill giant packs of orcs, and of course the most unique thing about Shadow of Mordor was its incredibly unique nemesis system. The fact that there were lieutenants in this game that you would kill and would come back later on for revenge with all the gory scars and deformations that you caused them in their previous fights. If you beat them, they get weaker and other people get promoted in the ranks of the orcs. If they kill you, well, they get promoted and become even more powerful. And it actually really becomes like there's a nemesis that you are trying to kill, and you might go multiple times trying to take out this certain guy, and it adds a really awesome element to the game. Outside of that, yeah, it is a little bit more of a generic combat game, but the game is fun enough with enough environments, enough to do, that it really was a cool, unique game, and especially you have to play the next gen version because of the increased graphics and the improvements to the Nemesis system over the last gen version. It was refreshing, it was different, it was a great entry into the land of Middle-earth. I hope that they can keep up with this and possibly even improve upon it. I really feel that if they tweak it a little bit and add a little bit more story element to it than they had in this game, that this could be excellent and this could even become a Game of the Year contender later on. But for now, I did put it firmly in my top 10, and I hope you'll check it out if you haven't already. Up next on the countdown, a game that probably a lot of people will be shocked to find, and the fact that I was so surprised at how good it was, I felt really deserved a spot on this countdown and needed to be given its due. Check it out.